Hi guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So let me just zoom in slightly. So I'm here to have another play with our sort of magazines and, you know, genuine vintage ephemera that we're going to make some DIY ephemera and DIY kind of embellishment pieces from. Just giving you some ideas really of things that you might pick up and then not know how, or, you know, I'm not being patronising when I say not know how to use. I just mean, you know, you might get home and kind of think, oh, I'm not quite sure now what to do with that. So if you caught my last video, I'm just using the exact same publication, and these pages here that I've torn out are from like the front and back pages where you've got like adverts and things like that. And then you've also got in that particular publication, which this is the Illustrated London News, some of the pages have these wonderful headers which I just absolutely love. So I'm just going to tear this one down because it's, you know, obviously hanging off the page anyway. And then let's have a look at some ideas of what you can do. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I've already made to give you a couple of, you know, ideas already. So, oops, hold on. This piece is now glued together. Oh, come on. Don't you just hate it when that happens and you've glued your pieces in? Sorry. Oh. This piece is now glued on there. There we go. Right, okay. Okay. So this is one of my little fold out pieces, which we've done these in the mass making, and there is a tutorial on my tutorials playlist how to make these. But basically, all I have done is I've taken a portion of text from the magazine. So for instance, if I just pull in here, this page here, you know, I've just torn some of the text out here and used it to sort of layer up. And then this here, this portion, was like an advert basically from some of the advert pages. And then here I've just stuck one of my banners from my blue vintage kit over as a little belly band in there. So, you know, kind of like something super simple, but just adds that sort of decorative edge to something. So if we make something now using the similar sort of concept, basically. So I've got here just some coffee dyed paper, and I'm just going to fold it over. Perhaps we'll do this as like a flip down. So I'm just going to make this slightly narrower, I think. I probably should have picked my piece that I'm going to use before cutting that down, because now I will probably struggle to find a piece that's that's the right shape and size. I've got this one here, or I've got this one here. So let's just cut these down. Like that. Okay. So if I use this one, which is quite large, let's just have a look. Okay. I'm just going to trim that down here, and what I will probably do is I will start by cutting it around, like including that black edge, if you see what I mean, and then I'll see, you know, how it is and whether I need to then trim off the black edge, if that makes sense, but keeping it in its entirety at the moment. So just trimming that down. And I know that I said this in the last video, you don't have to have this same publication as me. You know, these vintage adverts, they're often inside vintage books and all sorts, you know, so you really don't have to have the same, you know, magazine thing that I've been using. You can use, you know, whatever you can actually kind of manage to get your hands on. So it just about squashes onto that page, just, you know, just fits on there. So let me just take in something to lean on to ink this up. Oh, why did I not keep my sheet that I was using in my last video? Oh, right, okay, hold on. Oh, it's so annoying, isn't it, when you then can't really find anything to use. Right, let me just tear that off and we'll use this. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is ink this up a little bit. Because although this is vintage page, I know that I've said this loads of times, although it is from a vintage publication, it's not like a discoloured piece. So it's quite stark and quite bright. So I'm just going to ink that a little bit like that. Okay. Now, then what I want to do is, just so as we're producing like a similar look basically to this, let me move this one out of the way because this is something which, you know, we might do in a moment. So what I want to do to produce the same sort of look there is just a little bit of the, you know, the texty type section. So again, I'm just going to tear a little section from there. And obviously, you know, you don't even need to use your magazine page for this. You could use just regular, you know, some vintage book page. I'm just using this because obviously it's on hand, and I've got it here. So I might pop it that side, just so as we have something a little bit different going on. Okay, so all I'm going to do again is just ink this up, and I'm just inking this, you know, before popping it onto the piece basically, because this is coffee dyed, and so that's quite dark already. I don't really want to darken it up even more. Okay, now I'm just going to glue that onto there. I'm just using my, you know, normal wet glue. So I'll just pop that down. Oops, like that. Okay. Like that. And then I'm going to take my, you know, adverty type section. Now, as I say, you know, if you're not so keen and you wanted to trim it down, because obviously this is really taking up this entire front, you know, you may want to make it slightly smaller and do away with that black outline. I quite like the black outline today. I say today because obviously I don't want to kind of say, oh, I quite like it, and then you might watch another video and I'll be saying how much I don't like it. So I like it today, because I think crafting's a bit like that, isn't it? You know, depending on your mood, you may like something one time and then not so much the next time. Just going to pop some extra double-sided tape in there. And again, I mean, I'm just using the double-sided tape because you know, it's nice and quick and easy, and obviously, you know, this is just a square piece, so it's really super simple to use this. Okay, just take that off. Have to excuse my fingers, I'm afraid, because I, you know, although I'm going to upload these videos on different days, you know, I did do this on the same day obviously as I did the photos, so please excuse my really messy fingers. They're obviously still messy from the last video. Okay, I mean, personally I think that looks just absolutely gorgeous, even just how it is. I don't even feel like it needs anything else, but you know, obviously I'm wanting to decorate it further. So just going to round those corners. Again, that's not an essential thing. Play around and see what, you know, what you fancy doing. And again, you know, mix it up. So you might want to have just rounded corners at the top, but leave them square at the bottom, things like that. Now, I'm just going to have a rummage in my little sack here and see what we might like to put with this, because obviously my intention was to do something similar-ish to what we've done here. So I've got here some of my book plates. So let's just take this one here, I think, saying journal. Oops. And this one's sort of darker, so it would produce a bit of a contrast. So just cutting that on. I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope you're doing some crafting. I mean, another thing, if you don't have kind of anything with these images, is you might get things like this in your encyclopedias and things like that. So don't be sort of too deterred. But, you know, any vintage magazines, they had lots and lots of vintage adverts and things like that in them. So, and they don't have to be hugely vintage, you know, they could probably just be like from the 70s or something, if that's, you know, what's on hand to you. Now, just having a look whether we could do it sort of like this, because I'm just trying to get this effect going on. The other thing that I do have is I've got some other pieces from my blue vintage kit here. Now, whether or not I've got a banner piece quite the right size, who knows? But let's just have a look and see. Oops. I have used a few bits already, so no, I don't have anything quite the same sort of size. Oops, that's massive compared to that. So just pop these away. I mean, I'm just using these because this just happened to be floating about on my desk, to be honest, from the last thing that I had been making. So, oops. Just have a look in here. This is a bit of an overspill of pieces, so I might just have something in there. No, I think they're all just same size pieces. Oh, well, I have got that one actually. I have got one going the other side, or the other way, which we could have that, I guess. Or actually, if we're going to do that anyway. Oh no, look, it is hanging off now. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's overhanging actually. Doesn't really matter, does it? So just pop these bits out of the way. So as I clear the decks a little bit. I mean, actually, I guess we could just trim it down and not even have those banner pieces overhanging. Should we do that? Let's do that. So let me just get a couple of brads from my little tin. They're the wrong size ends, or, you know, the different size ends. I get my brads from a shop over here in the UK called The Range, and they, in the, you know, that same packet, they come in two sizes, so you get sort of bigger ones and smaller ones. And yeah, I'd obviously picked up a big one and a small one, but I've got two big ones now. So again, I'm just going to pop a couple of little holes there for the brads. I know that I've said this as well loads of times, but I really love these brads. They're super cheap, and they're this fantastic colour, you know, which looks really great with our vintage style things that we make, you know, for our journals. But they do have these really incredibly long legs. So, yeah, trying to sort of bend them round, or sometimes I just cut them off so to make them a bit shorter, but I was able to just bend those ones around. So again, just okay, might be able to just bend that one around. Okay, okay, right, squash them down like that. Now I'm just going to ink this up before we, you know, glue it down. That. Okay, now I'm just going to use, I think, some hot glue just to pop this on, because then it's just, you know, instant and it's done. So just pop that down with just some hot glue there. trying to get it so that I've got more or less equal top and bottom of that blue frame showing, poking out behind, because that just looks quite pretty, doesn't it? And then what we're going to do is we're just going to have this glued down as a little, you know, belly band piece. So all I'm going to do is add my glue like this. Okay, and then a bit here. Oops, like that. Oop, nearly glued it down upside down there. Okay. And then obviously it's up to you really whether you would leave those little banner pieces, you know, longer than your piece or not. I mean, I actually think they look really nice. My only reservation is, for me, I would be likely to damage them overhanging, but, you know, probably most normal people wouldn't, to be honest. So I might just leave them hanging out. So you've got then your little, you know, pocket piece there. So let me again just see whether I've got anything skinny that I could just tuck into there. That's probably not skinny enough. So, you know, because I've obviously put that glue in, so I don't want to tuck something in there at the moment, because I'll end up like I did with this, where it's actually glued in. But you know, you've got your belly band piece basically here, and you've also got your flip down piece like that, and it looks really great, doesn't it, just with that vintage kind of advert behind it. So that was another little idea of using your pieces that you buy. And then another quick thing that I wanted to just have a play with, so I'm just going to pop these out of the way, is using those gorgeous you know, heading type pieces, because they just look absolutely lovely, don't they? So this is one of my little fold out pieces, which again, I mean, I think we did actually make some of these in the mass makes, and definitely there's a tutorial to make these on my tutorials playlist. But basically these are obviously sort of perfect shape for using to decorate things like this. So again, up to you really whether you wanted to have like it central, you know, and tear off obviously a lot of that, or whether you wanted to have more of that decorative piece showing like that. So I probably would prefer it central. So what I'm going to do is again ink that up before gluing it down, because you know, this is coffee dyed already, so I don't really want to ink it further. Oops, like that. Have to be a bit careful because this is obviously quite you know, long and flimsy now. Okay, and then just going to now glue that down. Oops. Oh, my glue is getting really messy. Look, it's now getting to that point in the video where I'm getting messier and messier. Right, so I'm just going to glue this down like this. Okay. Like that. And then just flip that over and then just glue that down like that. Just take my dried white and just press that down, trying to be a bit careful so as I'm not having glue oozing out everywhere. Okay, and then I'm just going to tear that, to be honest, at the edge, because I quite like that sort of finish. And I'll just tear it down at this edge as well. Get rid of those. How pretty does that look? It's lovely, isn't it? And then obviously you could then just decorate that further. So completely up to you what you use. So again, let me just have a look and see what bits I've got here, you know, from that blue vintage kit. Just because again, that's, you know, that's just what I've got laying around on my desk. So you know, it's what I've been using most recently. Oops, I've got my Bellissimo kit, which actually would look really nice on there, but it doesn't particularly fit. I would have to tear it down, which I don't really want to do, but yeah, that would have looked quite nice on there. Let's see what else I have here. She's quite nice. Got that one of her, where obviously my printer was misbehaving and it's got those streaks. It's annoying, isn't it, when your printer does things like that? Let me just see what bits I've got in my other bag. Okay, obviously lots of fussy cutting has taken place here, hasn't it? Oh, she's quite nice on there, isn't she? Yeah, I quite like her. So might just pop her on there like that. So let's just glue her down. So I guess we're just mixing a bit of old with the new here, really, because we've got obviously our genuine vintage pieces just mixed in with our, you know, our digis. So, but to be honest, it just makes this really fantastic sort of contrast, doesn't it? You know, and when I say contrast, weirdly contradicting myself now, contrasting but completely in keeping, if you see what I mean. I know that was a contradiction in itself, but hopefully you guys know what I mean. And then I'm going to finish this off with some lace, because of course we couldn't really have it without some lace there. Right, I'm going to have to oops, have I got more of that lace laying about? No. Hold on. Oh no. Ah, yeah, I do have some buried. I knew I had more, but I didn't know where it was, whether it was going to be accessible. Because I quite like it wide, you know, it looks more impactful if it's like the full width. I do quite often sort of separate this lace down along the sort of middle seam. It just lends itself quite well to that, but I think for this it would look quite nice in its whole, you know, in its thickness, or in its entirety, you know, with regards to how thick it is. Okay, so I'm just going to then trim that down here like that. Okay. Oh, let's have some bling, because my gosh, we can't just have totally bling free pieces. You know, we didn't add any bling obviously to our photographs that we made in the last video, so let's pop some bling on this. We have some there. Oh, how pretty does that look? Oh, I know I say it all the time, but I mean, doesn't bling just add just something gorgeous to every single thing? It hardly ever looks wrong. I think it, you know, 9 times out of 10, it just looks lovely. Okay. Oh gosh, I'm so covered in glue. My fingers, I'm actually struggling to even find a clean part of my hands now to press the glue down. Right. Oh. Oh, come on. I shouldn't have touched it again. Right, there we go. Oh no, that's not straight. Right, there we go. How pretty does that look? So we've just kind of incorporated just a little section of the, you know, that book. Where did I put my other pieces that I made? Let me just move this out the way, because my gosh, my desk looks hideous, doesn't it? While I bring the other couple of pieces in that we made. So here we go. So that's 3 pieces there, all incorporating like the ads pages basically, you know, and this one obviously from the sort of header page basically. But don't they just look gorgeous? So hopefully that's given you some other ideas of how to use things like from your vintage books and magazines and things like that. You know, they just look so striking, don't they? So yeah, I hope that you liked them and hope they've given you some ideas, and thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you guys soon. Thanks, Hen. Bye.